What are we going to talk about? So I think we're diving right into AI, but with a heavy focus on hardware.
Think we're talking the two big wearables on your eyes is kind of the thing, right? The smart glasses, for lack of a better word, the Google Glass, Oculus, the Meta, and what else? There's another one that I'm forgetting. The Apple
COVID
Vision Pro.
vision. Yeah.
Uh, I I wanted to mention that one real quick because you and I were talking about it, and you've gone through it, so you'll have to talk to your experience about it. But I just want to say real quickly about it. I went to the Apple store yesterday, because just as a quick hot tip for anybody, do not put a camera hider on your laptop. That will be a costly mistake because it ended up being a costly mistake. When you close your laptop, camera hider will break your laptop, as I discovered.
What happened?
Um,
Wait, tell us what happened to your laptop.
so I got a case that came with a little camera hider, a little tiny 5 cent piece of plastic, probably produced in China. And so I was like, oh, okay. And I put it on my laptop over the camera. And I had like this flashback as I closed my camera, or as I closed my laptop and I put it away. And then when I opened the laptop back up, it had cracked the entire screen. So it was, luckily, with having Apple Care, it was only $100 repair, but it would have been a $700 repair. And what was funny was I knew several years ago that had happened to other folks when they had put camera hiders. So don't use the camera hider. Use a Post-it. Use anything else. Do not use camera hiders on your MacBook laptops.
Yeah. Yeah, good tip. I think that's good. I rather like let people know. I mean, just in case. You never know who might be thinking about doing that. So just to prevent it. And that was on your MacBook Pro.
That was on my MacBook Pro. And then so I was at the store and you and I talked about, because I'd never experienced the Apple Vision Pro. So I
Yeah.
walked over to look at the Apple Vision Pro, and I was hoping I could just, before I grabbed my laptop, I was hoping I could just walk over, and they had them out. And I was like, oh, could I just talk to somebody and just pop it on and take a look at it? No, you have to like book a demo, and
Right.
and it was like, you have to book a demo and then it has to be the next day. And it's like, well, we have people here in the store. We've got the hardware. We've got everything going. Why can't I actually like put this on my head itself or whatever? But so it's very, that was very interesting. That was very interesting, kind of like barrier to even like testing it out.
Did you end up testing it? Because that happened to
No,
me too. I went on
not at
Sunday
all.
and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
we're launching iPhone 17."
yeah,
I was like, "Okay, can I use I same thing. I couldn't even like take the goggles or whatever goggles.
yeah.
I couldn't take them off of the stand. I was like, why is everything on lockdown? I mean, it's like insane. But yeah, you had to book and I couldn't go in until Tuesday, so I had to wait 2 days.
As a quick aside, have you seen the videos of the ski mask prank with the
No.
uh so before the Vision Pros came out, there are these giant ski masks that are like, they're metallic and mirrored, that look like the Apple Vision Pro. And what
Yeah.
people did as a joke was they would take a credit card with an RFID chip, and they would tape it to the inside, and then they were walking into small businesses and just being like, "This is my Apple Vision Pro," and bending their necks down to pretend to pay for the Twinkies that they bought at like a register or something. And it was very funny.
Oh my god. I'm
Yeah,
sure like the business owners are freaking out. Like what did they do, right?
like, who are these assholes walking in here with these?
It's so stupid. Just like it's so dumb. Like, what are we doing? Like, it just even when I was, like, messing around with it and just being in public, I'm like, "This is embarrassing." Like, why we're not acting human anymore.
Yeah. Uh, there's a good author who talks named Jason Pargin, who often talks about like the use cases and like why, like who is this for. And the thing I think about the Apple Vision Pro, I was talking to my wife about it as we were going over there, and I was like, man, even if I wanted this thing, even if I wanted this thing, and even if I thought that this would solve some kind of use case for me,
Yeah.
I don't think the thing that I think is interesting about it is it's so cost prohibitive. And Mac products tend to be pretty, that's one of the downsides to being anybody who's has Apple products, anybody who uses Apple products, we all know they're pretty cost prohibitive. And but that one is so much more like by a factor of several, it is so much more cost prohibitive in a way that kind of pushes you even from even like wanting to buy it because of the fact like what are you going to do? You're going to keep it at home. It's not going to be something that you're going to actually go out anywhere
No,
in,
that's
you
the thing with
know.
the demo video. It really focuses on being in your house and
Yeah,
like right, like you mentioned it too, and I saw in the demo, it's like, oh, now you don't need a TV screen. You're
yeah.
watching TV through these goggles. I like calling them goggles.
I mean, they look like goggles. Yeah, that's why that ski
Deep sea
video was so.
goggles.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing that you and I have talked about as we've gone through this, and boy, it was a flashback, was then comparing this to Google Glass. And when I watched that video again, it made me think two things. It made me think when you watch that video shows a great use case. And for people that don't know, sometimes I'm realizing that as we're talking about a lot of UX stuff, we're not always explaining some of the terminology and lingo.
Yeah, we
And
have to
so,
get better at that.
yeah. So a use case is what is the reason why people would use a product, or what is your main like what's the main function of a product? And in the Google Glass example, it showed a lot of really good, that video shows a lot of really good and compelling use cases. It shows finding directions, it shows being able to identify areas, it shows being able to talk to an AI companion and schedule things, or I'd be able to like play music through it, make a phone call, like a whole lot of like interesting things. But the problem was that it was all vaporware. That video is a complete fucking like it's pretend. It is not a real thing at all. And you can totally see where there may have been sales and marketing people that were saying, no, 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 but it's gonna be this, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be this, and like wanting to hype it up
Yeah.
and not. And then the other video I sent you was folks talking about how the release of the Google Glass was it released free to developers.
It
And so
what?
it was released, they were giving them for free to developers
Oh,
because they were hoping that those would be the early adopters. And the and they looked pretty dorky, and they had like some of them I remember being like bright orange and being like really kind of like awkward looking, and they kind of made people, I don't know, they made them look like they were doing like Star Trek, like weird like bad Star Trek cosplay. And like they looked like they were going to a Comic-Con to cosplay as somebody on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise, but they hadn't fully committed to wearing the full costume. Like that's kind of the vibe they gave off. So
what are you wearing on your what kind of glasses are you wearing today?
these are just Warby Parker glasses. These are not any type of, even though I looked at uh, I guess Google has come out with a new pair of Google glasses that
They
are
should call
recent.
them Google goggles. And
Well, the new ones look like this, but
oh, okay.
I guess what they did was, or is it? It's this, and then Meta is also has a pair of glasses that's more successful. And the
Yeah.
Meta ones I just looked at, they have now a wristband that allows you to do subtle hand gestures to control apps.
Yeah, neuroband.
Neuroband. Yeah.
Yes, that's a whole different, ball of wax. Now you can really start to control, right? So before the interfaces were things that would be controlled. Well, is it Pro Vision or Vision Pro?
I think it's Vision Pro.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I noticed is, you have to like control this with your retina,
Yeah.
right? So or hand gestures.
Okay.
So I asked them specifically, do you need your Apple Watch to control the Vision Pro? And they said, you do not. Like
Interesting.
it's not like that. Whereas Meta, and I think this is just a few days ago, released this neuroband, and neuroband helps with knowing what your, I don't really know the science, but like your muscles or tendons or something, they know what you're writing. So like as your hand, you can actually handwrite a text message,
Yeah, I saw that.
handwrite a text message, and send it and still be kind of what, doing whatever you're doing. So I thought that was interesting and just another avenue to controlling, obviously, the way the interface is. So, some people have been really freaking out, and we have some, I think, strong opinions about where AI is going and interface design. And I believe that UX isn't going anywhere, and it's actually, it needs to be leaned into even more for these products to be successful. And so going back to the neuroband and the handwriting, I mean, we're like going backwards. This isn't like, oh, this is something brand new. I mean, I don't, does Gen Z even know how to write in cursive? Like, what are they going to do?
It's an interesting point because I guess the use case for the handwriting is if you're if you're somewhere private and you're sending something to some, if you're I mean, I guess responding to something from a parent or responding to like something to some kind of a loved one, perhaps. Um, I also and
No,
it
I think
also
you're
kind of
right. There's also instances where, I mean, most we're in front of people. We don't want everyone to know what we're doing. So I think there's more use cases of quiet ways of delivery and not like gestures, like weird gestures like that in public. I think the use cases are more, again, use case, are
yeah.
more towards, quiet way of interacting.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The example I saw, the young lady was writing on her knee with her fingernails
Mm.
as a way to and was able to do that. She said successfully, and it worked well for her, which I think is interesting. Um, I also wonder how much of it is if you were to speak aloud, like if you weren't wanting to, if you weren't, or if even if like, we also have to think of there are people that don't have hands or don't have arms, right? And so you could imagine that you could speak aloud to text, but I also wonder how good that is and how good how well that's able to receive. So I wonder if that's kind of a workaround for the demo. I'm a little skeptical of some of that.
I did a
The
demo the other day. Like this is
Yeah.
about maybe 4 weeks ago. I was at the Innovation Summit in Nashville, and I had a booth there for, and I was kind of going into like the other booths, and Nissan had a display, and they were showing off vehicles that would be typically in a showroom, but that, with the Vision Pro, the showroom's in front of you. You can be anywhere. And so you're like creating a vehicle, that you would want to purchase with these glasses. And so that was, I wasn't impressed because the interface was, very hard to kind of maneuver. Again, I was interacting with nothing, right? So anyone around me is like real sees what I'm doing, and I could be getting in their way. I'm kind of like taking up unnecessary space. That's what I think these things, like, we don't really talk about it, but it's like you're becoming bigger as like with your gestures and your movement unnecessarily, and there's nothing in front of you, so nobody else sees what your narcissist self is doing. And it does have this feeling of, being narcissistic, like I'm taking up space, I need all this, I'm doing all these things. So it's very, that to me is where I'm getting at, is it just doesn't like solve the problem correctly, right? Whatever they're trying to do, it's not solving. It's like creating a problem instead of solving. Like it's trying to like, oh, let's be smart, but it's actually creating, I think, unnecessary like ways of humans interacting. And so anyway, getting into the Nissan demo, I mean, yeah, I got to see how the detail of like the thread in the car seat. Like I got to see the color of that thread and like how it's threaded. Right. So I can see that type of detail, but it felt like everything else was, just like extravagant or something, with the gestures and the putting on these glasses, and the interface was still clunky. So there's like definitely, at least in that realm of VR, AR, right? Nobody talks about that. Where'd that
Yeah.
language go?
Yeah.
Is still antiquated.
Well, it's so interesting because so one of the books that I read that it was actually recommended on the UX podcast was this book called Make It So. And it looks at cinema and looks at sci-fi interfaces from Star Trek, Star Wars, et cetera, et cetera. And it kind of does it as a thought experiment around how how you would design for multiple characters. And it's more or less like trying to just get people to play and think about it. But the other thing that it acknowledges in the both in the book and that we have to also acknowledge is the fact that like a lot of these sometimes I think that we're shown a lot of ideas in cinema that we then believe that we should transpose to real life and not realizing that those things are designed to visually look cool on a screen. A lightsaber, as an example, is supposed to look really cool on the screen. In real life, it would be a fucking nightmare. And if you were to have a bunch of children running around with real lightsabers, it would be like you'd have a dead daycare in a heartbeat, right? Like it would just
Yeah.
be bad. So, like, one of the things that we've seen, like, I think about when you're talking about like the Nissan demo, like a real practical use I could see for that would be like engineers or mechanics that are working on building um, large applications, then having like kind of a Tony Stark type of experience where they're putting on these goggles and they're able like go in and see how they would construct something. That makes total sense in like thinking of space and perhaps like being a way to design or build or make something in a way that's like environment environmentally less costly versus a real thing that you might have to build and then scrap over and over again. Although, whatever, they use computer models now and they kind of do the same type of thing. But I remember talking to one of my mentors years ago, and he even said that they had experimented with, after I guess they'd seen one of the Iron Man movies or Avengers, and they saw those 3D hollow displays where they were gesturing their hands in the air and all that. There was like an experiment with like using like gas and like spraying gas out and then projecting stuff and trying to make that work. And it just is not a real thing
Yeah.
that we can practically do in real life. So, but then the problem that we're trying to solve of like hooking a giant computer up to our faces, um, and having that and spending $3,500 to like sit in an apartment or whatever, and and be able to like gesture wildly, it just does not seem to be solving a real user problem.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I started to really look into more of, just how this is impacting our industry.
Yeah,
And so just thinking about, if is anyone familiar with Luke? How do you say his last name? Is it Bluesky, I think?
I just refer to him as Luke W.
Yeah,
I think it's Warborowski,
you're right.
but I think that's how I've heard it pronounced. But I know he goes by Luke W because he acknowledges he has a uh, a long last name that's
He
a
has a cool Polish last.
little yeah, it's a little tricky to pronounce. So
That's all right. That's okay, Luke. Luke W. So, I think I went through an article, and I know I shared it with you as well. And it
yeah.
was, he was talking about the evolution of AI products. And I actually found his almost 6 stages really insightful. And what he talks about in each stage is, the machine learning that was like more behind the scenes and stuff that was happening, I'd say, prior to 2022. Right.
Mhm.
And so that's what we called it. We called it machine learning. It
Yeah.
was models that were, quietly, in the background, that would, what we used to refer them to as Y malls. You may
Hmm.
also like, right, recommendations in
Yep.
Amazon, Google, and other shopping websites that would, gather, figure out the data and say, hey, yeah, these are recommendations for you. And then
Ex-
from there, the next stage is really what we are all in today, which is our, just chat GPT, natural language, mechanism that we would type in and get something back.
yeah, the LLMs.
Yes. And, just those conversational design prompts, that happen at the forefront, right? And has gotten popular. And really, like from there, I think the third one is, talking through, what was it? It was really the RAG, context of, just real focus on the retrieval of like augmented products,
Hmm.
just like how to cite things and get the resource information, and understand like where all this is coming from. And again, that's like just what, 2 years or not even. And then he brings in like stage 4, or the next stage, which is um foreground agents. I think that's what he was talking about, which is really like what those agents are doing, from like a visualized plan, mid-task edits, or surface tool boundaries. And then the last one is the background agents. And the way he talks about this is, really, I think, what's happening, not even this year, but go from, this year on. And that's what's happening in the background of, just multi-agent. So think of like chat's agent mode, and how you can have it do multiple things for you, like read my email and summarize it for me. Send a schedule like a meeting with so and so, and that agent in Google and Chat GPT is doing multiple things at once. And then, for the future, it's this agent to agent ecosystem. And
Hmm.
so that's when basically our, you know, systems, these LLMs, are talking to each other, or even the
Hmm.
smaller ones, the smaller learning machines are talking to each other. So think of like, and maybe this is not a great example, but Figma to Claude, or to like a local library that I have that can help, spin up designs that we've taught it. Um, and so with that, that to me is like another part of what we're talking about, which is where we're going, in the future. and how I think the user experience industry, our industry is being impacted by, you know, what's happening, you know, behind the scenes.
Yeah, you know, I really, I think I know I've told you this privately, but I'll tell you this, that um, AI has been, I've never felt more like that commercial with John Claude Van Damme on the two trucks, where the trucks are like splitting, uh, where I'm like doing the split and trying to balance between these two trucks. And I feel like the trucks are going in opposite directions, which is a lot of UX folks rushing to AI. And then, you know, as anybody can see with my comic book background and my illustration background, um, then the other folks that I have in my life and the other side of me that is very passionate about illustration and painting and artwork. Um, Everyone on that side is very like, man, fuck AI, and like this is awful and this is like doomsday. And I don't feel, I used to feel, I was feeling a little stuck in the middle, but I'm feeling more and more that these companies, these AI companies, are not showing the level of trust that I would have expected them to display to make me want to continue to use their product. Even Anthropologic with Claude
Mm,
just recently said, "Hey, guess what? Everything that you put into this, because they were supposed to be the company that was going to be responsible and that was going to be
yeah,
able to be trusted, and they just changed their terms of service under the hood to go, oh no, we're going to use everything that you put in here, all your chats, everything that you use here, any type of thing that you're making, we're going to use that to train our model." It's like, well, we didn't agree to that. LinkedIn just did the same thing. So we were just talking about the Meta glasses with Ray-Ban, right? I
yeah.
look at those and the Neuroband, I look at the demo of it, and the demo of it and the technology looks kind of cool. But I don't trust Facebook. I don't trust Meta. I don't think that they're ethical actors. I don't, they aren't doing, so like I'll give you an example of like a reason why, just as a thing around them, is Meta, Facebook, Instagram, etc. They decided to kowtow and to not do any type of fact checking, right? So what that tells me is that if I were to put on Meta band glasses and to like adopt those, what's to tell me that anything that I was be looking at would be true? What's to tell me that the reviews of something as simple as small as like the reviews of a restaurant or a movie, or if I'm going to go to a doctor's appointment, like that's a lot of data, and there's a lot of data that can be manipulated and played on by bad actors, and there's a lot of responsibility around that data. And to me, my biggest problem with these companies, that's one thing, is that they're not being they're not being honest and upfront and forward with their users about what they're doing. The other thing is, and we're going to see this play out with lawsuits, is they're consuming and consuming material that is infringed IP. So as an example, this is where like my book creator hat gets really pissed off.
Yeah.
So it was decided in court that people cannot make comics from AI. The reason being is that it is consuming other people's work to create. The same thing with, if you wanted to make movies, if you want to make music, if you want to use these tools to make this stuff. Well, guess what? It's already infringed on other people's work without their permission. So it's essentially theft. And that's going to also hit UX, because all of our work through Behance, scraped off the web, any of the stuff that has been owned by any of the companies, even stuff where um, big companies that you and I have worked for that have had like patents produced,
Yeah.
these companies are just scraping through it and just grabbing everything. So I don't know what the
Couple,
legal ramifications are going to be.
yeah, let me include something that supports what you're saying. So Denmark, the country, is
Yeah.
pursuing an effort of responsible AI development by heavily investing in computing power and fostering a highly digitalized economy. So one thing that they're doing, and I think it was an NPR article. So let me pull that up. So what it's
Okay.
trying to do is introduce legislation to protect its citizens from AI deepfakes.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
they just
That's great.
passed legislation, and this is from July 27th, that aims to protect its citizens from deepfakes. And I believe, let me see if there was anything. Yeah, Denmark introduced a new bill to aim at protecting from deepfakes by giving them copyright over their own likeness. That's the wording here. If the law passes, then in theory, people could demand that online platforms remove content that uses their image without consent.
The UK also has strict protections for its citizens. The law is called the right to be forgotten. It's part of the GDPR. I believe that's the acronym. And so, if you're doing any stuff for the UK or Europe, Europe has much, much stricter laws. And the US really, really needs to get in gear with that and needs to get ahead of that in terms of protecting all of us in terms of our physical identity from deep fakes. Um, and God only knows what could be done with that. Like, there's a lot of I would think I was telling you, there's also videos online of people being turned away, trying to go into strip joints wearing meta glasses that have the camera in the thing, and they're
Yeah,
just being told, "Get out of here, get out of here." It's ridiculous, and this is like what I find when I'm searching for meta glasses. That's like one of the first results that comes up.
sure.
Um, so that that is those are protections that were needed to protect um, vulnerable populations from that. The other oh, you and I were talking about the flip side of it too, which is like the positive aspects of positive use cases for AI. And I know that there are going to be some people that might listen to this, they'll be like, who are very, very anti AI, who'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about? There are no positives. And I get that. But a lot of the positives are in medical science, finding new proteins to like fight cancer, finding there are all kinds of other like smaller there are a lot of use cases around science and medicine that are incredible. I believe even when they got the COVID vaccine, part of the reason that they got to the COVID vaccine so fast was because they were able to speed up and use AI models to figure out mRNA. And like I think that's highly valuable. So I think that there are some um, use cases that are great and that are terrific, but that when they can help humanity. But like, I don't know about you, but the slop that's getting thrown out into the world of like the garbage that's just getting like put out every 5 seconds, the fact that you can do Google image searches now and half of the images are AI is not good.
Yeah, yeah. I think, to ground also like what we're focused on here is, just I think from like a industry, if we focus back on like the UI interface and the user experience, where is our industry going? I think that's something that is kind of deeply, you know, like answers are deeply wanted.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something, we could even touch on, briefly in this episode, but I think that's where, people are wondering, as the interface is starting to dissolve, what is happening to the trajectory of, our careers and, the industry as a whole. And the more I dig into it, the more I do see, like, again, from a positive perspective, is that there is just so much more need of, like how to design things humanely.
Mhm.
And so, the interface disappears, do we know like how things should operate, like how these models should behave? I think that that need is going to exist and be, a part of the, almost forefront of how these things will be successful. Any thought around that, Brian?
I mean, when we started off talking about the glasses and kind of like the these wearables and like the different use cases for some of them, I think that I think one is like, I think one of the things that's important is like first off, like figuring out like, does your company or does your product or should you even be consuming, should you be working with AI at all? Should you be getting that open AI contract? Is it solving a problem for your user or not? Are you putting, because ultimately what we're trying to do, a good UX person, a good director of UX, a good UX professional who's seasoned will, the first thing that they will do is ask you why you want to do this and make sure it's validating an actual real problem, and make sure that you're not selling vaporware to clients, and that you're not making promises that are going to, die on the vine, you know. And so therefore, I think that, you know, first you want to validate that. First, you want to make sure that if you're going to use this thing, it's going to solve an actual real human problem first. And the other thing, like, you have to think about what are the downstream effects. Can you scale this product? Can you, when you implement this, how much power can this product take up?
Sure.
Right? Like, what are the risks if you implement this product? Will your users use this? Right? Like, first, like, will your users use this product? Is this solving problems for them? There have been some studies that are saying that is now AI is actually increasing cognitive load on folks versus reducing cognitive load. Um,
Oh, are
so
you talking about the end user or the people, kind of using it? Because yeah, I've read an article with like the development teams and how
yeah,
they're not developing as quickly because,
yeah,
they're
it's
implementing the
yeah, because they're making AI slop that's becoming tech debt for them, right?
right.
Because it's AI slop. It's, when we, in real environments and real like working environments, there's always throwaway code. There's always shit code that's put together just to like figure out an idea or like sketch out a plan, right? But if you're generating something and assuming that it's real and then integrating into your code base, I can imagine that becoming a fucking nightmare, right?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I also mentioned to you the other day is, how important um, like service design, right, is going to
Uh,
be to
uh,
our future as well. And I know you've had an interest in leadership in service design. Anything that kind of was, do you remember what kind of like stuck out to you when we were talking the other day?
yeah, I mean, I think that this goes back to like the big strategy and the big conversations around what are we doing? What's the strategy? Why are we implementing this? Who is who are we solving a problem for? And Google Glass is like a great example, right? When they show the example of like being able to do turn by turn directions, like being able to like walk and do turn by turn directions. Um, that's awesome. Like, that's a great idea. They could have made it that simple, that these are going to be glasses that are just going to help you get to where you need to go and nothing else.
Right.
That might have been useful. But like, I think that that's really an important part where doing really good service design would be help people flesh out the minimal viable product that you need to get to market, to that you either need to get to market or at least get into a testing, into a beta, so you can figure out, is this starting to chip away at a real user problem and a real user need? And then you can also start to validate, will people buy this? Is there a product market fit
Sure.
between this product and the market? That would have told Apple that the Apple Vision Pro was not going to fly, because I read now that they're canceling Apple Vision Pro. I guess Google Glass is coming back. Um, the Meta glasses, ironically, are doing well,
Well,
but
they're partnering up with the Neuroband. I think
yeah,
the thing is like that leap to the glasses aren't working, the interface that's, virtual is
yeah,
actually is just not working. It's not right. Like interacting with the space in front of you isn't the way to do this. And I think what they notice is we need another device or some other mechanism to help whatever we're seeing before our eyes work.
so is
Well,
this
it's almost
separate?
like Bluetooth technology, right? Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
So is it a separate product altogether, the Neuroband, or is it a separate company?
Neuroband is, you know what? I don't think it's in competition with Apple Watch, if that's what you're asking. I think Neuroband is coupled with the Meta glasses.
Got it. So it's part of it's like when you buy it, it's part of the package
It's like the
together.
ecosystem, yeah.
So it's so funny that you mentioned the ecosystem, because I was also thinking when I was in the Apple store,
Yeah.
the 17 has come out, and I was just thinking, man, it's like 2007, 2008 is when the first iPhone came out.
Yeah.
We still have black fucking triangles is what we have in our, like, what are we doing? Like, the ecosystem, I think I was thinking about Apple, and I was like, man, when we buy Apple products, the thing that drives Android users nuts when they talk to Apple people is, like, a lot of us Apple people, the reason we buy Apple products is because we love the ecosystem. It has nothing to do with battery life or the screen size or the type of camera. Give a shit about that. We like the ecosystem. We like the closed system architecture, right? We like that we're not going to get bugged with a bunch of viruses and our shit's not going to be destroyed regularly, right? And we know what we're getting, and we know that's going to last a long time. And I kept thinking when I was in the store, man, if I was like, if I had Tim Cook's ear, or if I was like talking to like the C-suite at Apple, I would be like, have you guys thought about maybe, like, why are we still in the hardware business when it's an ecosystem that you sell? And like, you could fucking have it else do all the shit, make the phones, make the screens, and you all could be like, just sell the ecosystem. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm ignorant, but I don't understand fully why um, why we would want the the hardware. The hardware is not what makes Apple special. It never has been.
Well, I mean, I am seeing, this is where, and this is just something that I read recently too, is
Yeah.
they are, and we'll see. Steve Jobs may start to roll in his grave a little bit, but that the phones possibly could start going away. And what that means is, as think about like how much you actually use your laptop or maybe your TV versus your phone or even like the iPad, right? The tablet.
Yeah.
The eyeballs, where are the eyeballs going? And I think what they're saying is the movement from a laptop to the phone, from a tablet to the phone. Like you're doing a lot more on your phone, right? Mobile first and, so on. And then another shift could be happening. And who knows, just because I mean, not all of us wear glasses. So I don't know how this is going to work. But the shift from phone to glasses, um, and not needing to use your phone as much, right? So
Mhm.
your eyeballs aren't going to your phone. They're being, let's say manipulated with the neuroband. So sending text messages with your hand or something while these glasses are on. So there may be a shift, another shift. I mean, I've always wondered, when are we going to get rid of applications, native applications?
Yeah. I I've also,
Very
like,
provocative, but yeah.
just as a quick aside, I also
Yeah.
ran into one of my friends at the Apple store, and he was buying the new AirPods Pro. And I didn't know this. He was mentioning that they have now a translation feature,
I saw
like
that. Yes.
like a Babel fish from uh, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I thought, man, that's so cool. That sounds fantastic if that works. Like the idea that is truly like I will give it to Apple if like you can start traveling to foreign countries and you can start like and I if we can if I can pop in headphones and I can head to anywhere around the world, whether it's Mexico or Tokyo or Europe or Ghana or whatever, and it can start like instantly changing the like translating our languages back and forth. That is fucking incredible. Like that will be like I think that would be a huge change in humanity in a really good way.
Yeah, I love that feature. I saw that too, and I thought that was brilliant. It was, I've been using, when I do go to other countries, I've been using Google Translate with their
Yeah.
option to, look at menus with
Oh, the
their
OCR. Yeah.
yeah, I love the
Yeah.
OCR mechanism where it's just changing on the fly. And so I don't know where we were. I think we were like in nowhere, Spain, just waiting for our train. And it was like, oh, we had like such a long layover. And I was like, oh, here's a menu. Nobody speaks the language. We're in a rural part of Spain. And we could still order off the menu using that. But taking it up a level, now you have your iPod, or I'm sorry, your AirPods translating the person's language,
On the
and
fly.
then
Yeah.
the whole responding thing is not addressed in the demo, because the other person would have to have them as well to
Yeah.
understand you, right?
Yeah.
So how do you respond? You can't. It was one thing that was like it was cool in the demo how they didn't like address that. Of course, marketers are always like figuring out like a way to sidestep, but it was cool.
It would be great if Apple did a Tom's model where it's like every time you bought a pair of uh, AirPods, they sent someone in a foreign country. Like that would be, they wouldn't do it, but the shareholders would shit a brick. But that would
Oh,
be amazing if they did. We should also say to the people that are listening, OCR stands for optical character recognition, and
yeah,
that is Google's. That Google created that a couple of years ago. I believe they open sourced it, but it's basically if you take your camera on your phone and you put it over any type of text nowadays, it can pull in the text and as a text object, and that was not a thing that you could do back in 2007 when the iPhone first launched.
right. And actually, since you mentioned that, I also wanted to include the definition of service design, which is a
Yes.
process that focuses on the entire customer experience of service by improving that quality and effectiveness through alignment of internal process, people, and infrastructure. So it just helps
I,
with the entire user journey.
Service design is also sometimes referred to as design thinking. And service design, I like to think of service design is when you get a lot of stakeholders into a room. You get designers, you get developers, you get people, business people. You're getting them into a room, and essentially what you're trying to do in that meeting is you're trying to ice break them so they get comfortable with like getting post-its and getting a little creative and and being able to like think outside of their realm, and then you're trying to get them to lock down and agree on a path forward, and you take several different methods to get there, but you're trying to really get the first thing you're trying to do is identify problems, get to a root cause, and then the second thing that you're trying to do is then perhaps brainstorm solutions to those core problems, and then try to prioritize what those solutions might be and how you might test them and like how you might build a small MVP. A really good service design workshop or design thinking workshop, it will get you the result of like, and everyone comes to alignment on what the next steps are. And I would also say when you're really good at service design and you're really doing really good service design workshops, it's not a one and done. It's a repeated, continuous activity that you need to do until you deliver a full MVP.
Right. And I
At
think
least.
examples of that, just think of like customer service systems, think of like airport check-in systems, right? There's like multiple like interfaces, people that you're talking to, luggage, tickets, all of that.
So we didn't really dive into it that much. We talked mostly about AR, but I think that it's really interesting. One of the things that we should talk about, and one of the things that I think is interesting to talk about, is VR. Because remember a couple of years ago, everyone was so hot on VR, and everyone
VR
was
slash AR. It was just like
VR slash AR,
so
and it's
weird.
just it's a good reminder that like while Oculus has a large percentage of the market, and PlayStation VR is also a high percentage of the market, VR has not really been the adoption that people thought it would.
Sure.
Just like 3D in movie theaters and 3D televisions did not adopt. So there's something. So it's just kind of a good reminder for us to think when we see these trends and we see everybody say AI is the future, AR is the future, what else? Crypto is the future. Whenever they say this stuff, Web 3.0, which was the first most annoying
NTFs.
fucking thing, and yeah, NFTs, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Whenever you hear somebody start screaming about something is the future, you should be very skeptical
Yeah.
that is going to be true.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's especially when it's something that's very abstract and undefined. A lot of people just say AI, but it's like, what are we talking about? Like, I don't know what you mean, right? And it's like just like this kind of term that's just creating an umbrella over a lot of things, but it's like I don't know what you mean. Like you have to really explain like what you're talking about. Is it like a chat interface or, and so, yeah, I think it's just when it's very ambiguous and new, going to these conferences where people are talking about AI and automation and I don't know, a lot of it. I'm just like, I'm trying not to roll my eyes because it's just, it doesn't make, some of it just doesn't make sense. Like, I feel like people in general don't have a good sense of the word. Like, they can't really wrap their arms around what it is. But they're
Yeah.
speaking to it in like some sort of educational way to other people in the audience. And you're like, wait, what are we talking about? I don't understand.
Well, and they're often referring to it as in sci-fi ways, as opposed to like they believe like there a lot of it is like the belief that there's going to be the singularity and that there's going to be that we're all going to become robots and that there's going to like that we're going to have commander data pop out of or Terminator show up, and it's like these are all sci-fi concepts. The LLMs are not that smart. It's a fucking magic trick. You're being fucking hosed, and like it is very good, but because what it is doing, this is the other part that drives me crazy. When you are talking to an LLM, you are not talking to an LLM. What it is doing, it is responding to your text with predictive text. It is a large language model. So what it is doing, it is predicting what you want to hear. And most of the LLMs are also going to bullshit you, and they're very, very good at like making people believe the best possible things about themselves.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Well, this was good. I'm
all
glad
right.
we touched on it. This was awesome.
Yeah.
All right. We will see you
Right.
guys next week. Like, subscribe, and follow, or become our next victim of bad UX.
UX Murder Mystery is a joint production of Eve, User Experience Design Agency, and CrowleyUX, where systems meet stories. It's hosted by Brian J. Crowley and Eve Eden. Edited by Kelsey Smith. Intro animation and logo design by Brian J. Crowley. The music is by Nicolas Lee. You can follow us at UX Murder Mystery. You can email us at questions@uxmurdermystery.com. UX Murder Mystery is a copyright 2025, Brian J. Crowley and Eve Eden. Thanks for listening.